Alright, we are smack dab in the middle of summer, and it has now been a month since I talked about Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. You know what that means. You ready? Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. So Episode 2 takes place 10 years after Episode 1, and I'll say this movie did make some small improvements in terms of focusing up on the characters and the bigger picture of everything, but make no mistake, this is the worst Star Wars movie of them all. Basically, Padme is being hunted by this bounty hunter for whatever reason, I have no idea. So the Jedi Council sends Anakin Skywalker, who's pretty much now a young Jedi Padawan learner, to be her bodyguard. Meanwhile, Obi-Wan Kenobi, who has now taken up training Anakin, is sent to find this bounty hunter. That's part of the plot. There is more going on, but in all truth, guys, it doesn't matter. Okay, Anakin Skywalker, played by Hayden Christensen, is my biggest complaint about this movie. He and Obi-Wan have been palling around for 10 years doing Jedi stuff, and when you first see them in this movie, Anakin mentions that it's been 10 years since he's seen Padme, and not a day has gone by in which he hasn't thought about her. Right there, you get the feeling of, oh, okay, this movie's not gonna be good. This Anakin is supposed to be the origin of one of the greatest villains in cinematic history, right? Well, you wouldn't be able to tell that from this movie. Anakin Skywalker is such a crybaby in this movie, and it gets annoying as hell. There's a scene where he's talking with Padme, and he's complaining about Obi-Wan. He's like, he never listens to me, he doesn't understand, and it's not fair. All I hear is wah, wah, wah. And he's like that throughout this entire 2-hour and 20-minute movie. And don't even get me started on the love dialogue, oh my god. In The Phantom Menace, when Anakin first met Padme, he had like a crush on her, you know? Now, 10 years later, they have this romance thing going on, but they can't do it because there are bigger things going on. And there are Jedi rules that forbid romance. What? So while Anakin is doing his job of protecting Padme, we get to hear things like, now that I'm with you, I'm in agony. I'm haunted by the kiss that you should have never given me. I look at Natalie Portman like, what the fuck do you see in this guy? She rejects him at first, but it's obvious that she has feelings for him. She's like trying to pull away from him and shit. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. The story with Obi-Wan going after the bounty hunter is interesting-ish. We do get to see some cool stuff. We get to see this giant clone army that's being created to serve the Republic. We get to see a cool fight between Obi-Wan and the bounty hunter Jango Fett. That's all fine. Whenever I get to that part in the movie, I'm always paying attention. But then it'll go back to Anakin and Padme, and I'll start hating it again. I gotta say though, the fight between Obi-Wan and Jango Fett, to me, is the coolest action scene in the movie. Because Obi-Wan, first of all, he's a Jedi Master now, so he's a little smarter and better at fighting than he was in The Phantom Menace. So when Jango Fett's flying all over the place and he's shooting at him, I just find entertainment in that. There are also some pretty neat sound effects in this movie. Like the scene where Obi-Wan and Jango Fett are chasing each other through this asteroid field. Jango Fett fires these seismic charges and they're all like... The action in this movie, for the most part, is pretty cool. But as I always say, if action in this movie is the only thing to keep me entertained, the movie has failed. This movie's a fail because it focuses on Anakin and Padme's terrible love story too much. Oh, let's talk about Yoda for a second, because he's digital now! In the original trilogy, and even in The Phantom Menace, Yoda's a puppet. And that was perfectly fine, but with this movie being directed by George Lucas, he's like, nah, let's digitize him. Why was Yoda digitized? Well, to turn him into a jumping frog with a lightsaber, of course. I'm not gonna spoil the big plot points, but these are a couple of small spoilers. Towards the end of this movie, there's a lightsaber fight between Yoda and Count Dooku, another bad guy. And Yoda's jumping all over the place and he's yelling, and I'm like, this is the weirdest shit I have ever seen. But the thing in this movie that confirmed how bad it is to me is during the scene on Geonosis where Anakin and Padme are going through the droid factory and R2-D2 and C-3PO are following them. 3PO falls down and gets separated from R2. And what does R2 do? You see these jets come out of his legs and he starts flying. That was the point where I just threw my hands up and I was like, nope, I'm done. This movie sucks. There was no indication in any of the other Star Wars movies up to this point that R2 could fly. It's bullshit. And in the same way, there was no indication in any of the other Star Wars movies up to this point that Jedi weren't allowed to fall in love. That's bullshit too. In the end, Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones is a horrible movie. I have no idea what was going on in George Lucas's head while he was creating it. The characters were acted horribly. The dialogue is the worst thing about the movie. Some cool action scenes don't change the fact that this movie downright sucks. So Attack of the Clones, have you seen it? Do you think it's better than The Phantom Menace or vice versa? Whatever you think, go ahead and leave a comment. And don't forget to subscribe.